Why you can only love people you don't, till you know it is a Friday night. Late enough that the city has softened, traffic thinning into the occasional cab, the neighbor's music finally fading into something you can almost ignore. Mia just got home, jacket still on, shoes kicked off at the door. One upright, one on its side. She is leaning against the hallway wall, phone in both hands, thumbs hovering. There is a message on the screen. Tonight was really nice. I think we could actually be something. Want to try this? For real. She reads it twice, 3 times. Her chest does something she can. Not pain, not excitement. Something between a held breath and a flinch. Like someone reaching for her hand and her body not knowing whether to open or pull away. This is a man she has known for 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago they met at a friend's birthday. He was leaning against a wall, laughing at something she didn't catch. She said something sharp. He said something sharper. They talked until the bartender started stacking chairs. Then kept talking in the parking lot. Then kept talking in a diner at 1 a.m. with bad coffee and fluorescent lights. And the strange electric ease of 2 people who haven't yet learned to disappoint each other. The second time they met, they walked in the rain for 40 minutes. She told him about her father, the version she never tells. Not the angry version, not the sad version, just the quiet version, the one where nothing dramatic happened. Where her dad was just not quite there, present but muted. Like a television with the volume turned all the way down. He listened in a way that made her feel like the thing she was saying actually existed. For the first time, outside her own head. The third time, he cooked. She leaned against his kitchen doorframe watching him chop onions with the focused, slightly frowning expression of someone who learned to cook from YouTube and hasn't quite made peace with garlic. She thought, this one might actually be different. 3 weeks. She knows he moved 5 times before he was 12. She knows he is scared of open water. She knows he dips his head slightly before he laughs, like he is asking permission from himself to find something funny. She doesn't know what he looks like when he is angry. She doesn't know if his silence means processing or punishment. She doesn't know what happens when he needs something from her, really needs it, in a voice that sounds less like a request and more like a weight being placed on her chest. But those things don't matter yet, because for 3 weeks she has been the best version of herself. Funny, open, effortlessly warm, vulnerable in exactly the right doses. Not performing, not lying. She wasn't faking intimacy. She was faking permanence. Everything she showed him was real. It just could survive outside the greenhouse of newness. And now he has sent this message. Try this for real. She stares at it. That tightness again. Behind the ribs, like a hand gently closing around something soft. She puts the phone face down on the hallway table. Goes to take a shower. In the shower she drafts 7 replies in her head. When she comes out, she sends none of them. The next day she writes, things are kind of hectic right now. Maybe let's just take it slow. Within a week, her messages go from paragraphs to sentences. From sentences to emojis, from emojis to read receipts. He didn't do anything wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. The door just reached the point where it was supposed to be pushed open, and her hand slipped off the handle. 2 months later, a different party. A different stranger. A different conversation that lasts until 1 a.m. She texts her best friend from the cab ride home. I think this one is actually different. Her best friend does respond right away because she said that last time. And the time before that, it is not that Mia hasn't met the right person. It is that she leaves every person at exactly the moment they stop being new. Here is what is happening inside Mia's skull during those 3 weeks. And she has no idea. When you meet someone new, someone attractive, unpredictable, not yet fully mapped, your brain does respond the way most people think it does. We've been told that dopamine is the happiness chemical. The little reward pellet your brain gives you when something feels good. That is not quite right. Dopamine isn't the happiness chemical. It is the wanting chemical. It doesn't track what you have. It tracks what you might have. It lives in the gap between reaching and grasping. A neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz showed this beautifully. He trained monkeys to expect juice after a signal. At first, the dopamine spike came when the juice arrived, reward. But once the pattern was learned, something shifted. The spike moved. It no longer fired at the reward. It fired at the signal. The moment the monkey knew the juice might be coming, and if the juice arrived exactly as expected, the dopamine response went almost flat. Predictable reward barely registers. Your brain already priced it in. Read that again. Your brain does light up when it gets what it wants. It lights up when it doesn't know if it will get what it wants. Now think about the first 3 weeks of meeting someone. Every text might come or might not. Every glance might mean something or nothing. Every silence carries 10 possible meanings. Your brain is swimming in uncertainty, and uncertainty to your dopamine system is a 5-star meal. This is why Mia felt so alive during those 3 weeks. Not because this person was extraordinary, but because this person was unpredictable. Their attention was a slot machine. Sometimes it paid out, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it paid out double. And her brain was pulling the lever with both hands. Now here is the dark part. This is the same circuitry that makes gambling addictive, the same loop, the same architecture. The neurological reason you can stop checking whether they've replied is structurally identical to the reason someone can leave a poker table. It is called variable ratio reinforcement, the most powerful conditioning schedule ever documented. And it only works when the outcome is uncertain. The moment someone becomes consistent, the moment they say, "Let's try this for real," the uncertainty collapses. The slot machine becomes a vending machine. You put in a coin, you get a soda. Every time, no surprise, no spike. And a vending machine does make you feel chosen. It makes you feel safe. And for some people, for people like Mia, safe feels like nothing. Your dopamine system registers this not as love arriving, but as excitement leaving. And here is what makes it cruel. At the exact moment the uncertainty fades, a different chemical system is trying to come online. Oxytocin, vasopressin, the neurochemistry of bonding, of safety, of long-term attachment. These are the chemicals that make you feel calm next to someone, that let you fall asleep with your back to them, that build the kind of trust that takes years, not weeks. But for people wired like Mia, the transition from one system to the other doesn't feel like deepening. It feels like withdrawal, not like a breakup, like coming off a drug. The excitement leaves the body, and instead of recognizing that something quieter and more durable is trying to take its place, her brain writes a single, devastating sentence. I've lost the feeling. She hasn't lost the feeling. The feeling was never built to last. It was built to get her to the door. What happens after the door? That requires a completely different system, a completely different skill, a completely different kind of courage, one she was never taught. And it is not just her brain, it is the entire world she lives in. Let me take you somewhere. Open your phone, open any dating app. Look at it, really look at it. What you're staring at is an infinite shelf, ending display of human beings arranged for browsing, each one a curated thumbnail, best angle, best lighting, best version of a life compressed into 6 photos, and a bio that took 45 minutes to write. Swipe left, gone. Swipe right, maybe swipe left. Gone, swipe right. Gone anyway because they didn't swipe back. This design isn't accidental, it is architectural. The entire structure of modern dating technology is built on one principle. There is always someone else. The shelf never empties. The options never run out. And the implicit message, absorbed through the fingertips night after night, is this: commitment is the moment you stop shopping, and stopping is a loss. The psychologist Schwartz called this the paradox of choice. When options are limited, choosing feels natural. When options are infinite, every choice becomes a sacrifice. Because saying yes to one person means saying no to every other person who might have been better. And might have been better is a ghost that never dies, because you can never prove it wrong. Mia lives inside this architecture, not because she is shallow, because the entire culture she was raised in has trained her, at the level of reflex, to associate novelty with value and familiarity with settling. Think about it. TikTok learned, within 3 swipes, exactly what makes her pause, and it will never stop feeding her something new. The algorithm figured out that the moment stimulation drops, attention leaves. So the feed is engineered to never plateau, never repeat, never bore. And this logic doesn't stay on the screen, it seeps into the nervous system. It trains an entire generation to believe that the feeling of being stimulated is the same as the feeling of being alive. And the moment stimulation drops, the moment a person gets predictable, The trained response is, next. Now transplant that reflex into love. Mia dance. T knows she is doing this. She thinks she is making an authentic emotional decision each time she pulls away. But what is actually happening is more mechanical and more heartbreaking. She has internalized an algorithm, and the algorithm says, if it is not thrilling, it is not working. There is a term for this specific modern phenomenon, the talking stage, an entire phase of romantic interaction that didn't exist 30 years ago, invented essentially to extend the shelf life of the stranger dynamic. You are not together, but you are not nothing. You text constantly, you share secrets, you act like a couple in every way except the one that matters. You never commit, because commitment is where the talking stage ends and the real thing begins. And the talking stage works so well because it offers something irresistible, intimacy without consequence. All the warmth of closeness, none of the weight. You get to feel known without actually being known, because at any moment either of you can walk away and call it just vibes. Mia has been in the talking stage with 7 people in the last 2 years. Each one felt like the beginning of something. None of them became something, not because the people failed, because the talking stage is the product. The anticipation is the drug, and the moment someone tries to convert the talking stage into a relationship, let's try this for real. It is like someone turning on the lights in a movie theater. The spell doesn't break because the movie was bad. The spell breaks because you were never watching a movie. You were watching a trailer. And trailers are designed to end before anything real begins. It is not that Mia hasn't met the right person. It is that she leaves every person at exactly the moment they stop being new. Let me tell you what Mia has never seen, because she always leaves before it happens. Every relationship, every single one that has ever meant anything to anyone, passes through an ugly middle. A phase where the glow is gone and the reality hasn't yet revealed its value. Where the person across from you is no longer a mystery, and not yet a home. They readjust. They're ordinary, unfiltered, human in the least cinematic sense of the word. You know what this looks like? The first fight that doesn't resolve in an hour. The first silence that isn't comfortable. The first time you watch them get sick, and it is not the cute kind, not the let me bring you soup kind. The ugly kind, where they re-sweating through a t-shirt at 3 a.m. and the bathroom smells bad, and they look at you like a child who wants their mother. The first time they need you in a tone that feels less like romance and more like a hand gripping your sleeve. Most people like Mia, see this phase and hear a clean, almost relieving sentence arrive in their head. This isn't it. And they believe it. Because it sounds like clarity. It sounds like self-knowledge. It sounds like the wise, mature recognition that this relationship simply isn't right. But it is not clarity. Erich Fromm said it in one sentence that most people never hear. Falling in love is passive. It happens to you. Standing in love is an act. It requires everything you have. And almost no one teaches you how to stand, because the entire culture is built around the fall. The fall is the trailer. Standing is the movie. Mia has only ever seen trailers. Martin Buber, a philosopher who spent his life studying how human beings truly meet each other, described 2 modes of relating. He called them I-it and I-thou. In I-it, you relate to another person as an object. Something that serves a function in your life. A source of excitement, a mirror for your best self, a screen onto which you project everything you want to feel. This is what Mia does with every stranger she falls for. They are not a person yet. They are a surface, smooth, blank, reflective. And she fills that surface with a version of love that is really a version of herself. In I-thou, something entirely different happens. You stand before another person not as a consumer, not as a projector, but as a witness. Not the version of them that makes you feel good. Not the version that confirms your fantasy. The whole, messy, unremarkable, extraordinary them. And in that seeing, which is only possible after the glow has faded, after the surface has cracked, something emerges that was never available in the stranger phase. Not excitement, not dopamine, something Buber believed was the closest humans get to the sacred genuine encounter. But genuine encounter has a price, and the price is this. You have to be seen back. This is what Mia is running from. Not boredom, not lost feelings, not incompatibility. She is running from being known, because being known means someone has seen behind the curated version. Someone has watched you at your most ordinary, your most afraid, your most unattractive. And they are still there. And that, for someone who has only ever been loved at a distance, is not comforting. It is terrifying, because if they see all of you and stay, you can no longer control the narrative. You can no longer disappear and rebuild yourself for the next stranger. You are, for the first time, accountable to being real. It is not that Mia hasn't met the right person. It is that she leaves every person at exactly the moment they stop being new. Let me bring you back to the hallway, Mia. Friday night. Jacket still on, phone face down on the table, the message still there, still waiting. I think we could actually be something. Want to try this, for real? In every version of this story she has lived before, this is where the retreat begins. The long, slow fade. The excuses that sound like maturity. The eventual disappearance, followed by the eventual new stranger, followed by the eventual text to her best friend. I think this one is actually different. But let me tell you about a version she hasn't lived yet. In this version, she picks up the phone. She reads the message again. The tightness is still there. That fist behind the ribs. The instinct to put the phone down, to go to sleep, to answer tomorrow with something non-committal. That instinct is loud. It is old. It is the same voice that has protected her from ever tried to get close. But this time, and she doesn't know why this time, maybe she is tired. Maybe something in his voice last night when he talked about his mother. Maybe just the accumulated weight of all the beautiful beginnings that went nowhere. This time, she doesn't obey the instinct. She doesn't say yes. She doesn't say, I am all in. She doesn't perform some grand romantic gesture. She just writes back, that scares me. But I don't want to disappear this time. That is it. 12 words, not a commitment, not a cure. Not even, really, an answer. Just a refusal. For the first time to run. And maybe nothing comes of it. Maybe the ugly middle swallows them both. That is not the point. The point is the 12 words. The point is that for the first time in her life, Mia felt the tightness. And instead of reading it as a sign to leave, she recognized it for what it actually was. Not a warning, a threshold. The door she has been slamming shut every 3 weeks was never protecting her from the wrong person. It was protecting her from being seen by any person, and the tightness she felt wasn't the absence of love. It was the beginning of the kind of love that her dopamine system doesn't know how to recognize, because it is quiet and slow, and it doesn't send a spike through your nervous system at 1 a.m. It just stays. If you are still here, you already know what message you are avoiding. I am not going to tell you to stay. That is your call. I am just going to tell you what is on the other side of that tightness. If you ever let yourself get there, not fireworks, not a dopamine hit, not the electric certainty of a stranger, it's attention. Just someone who has seen the version of you that isn't performing, and is still sitting across from you, stirring their coffee. Not going anywhere. That is not exciting, but it might be the first real thing you've ever had. If this felt like a conversation you needed to have tonight, stay. That is what this channel is for, not answers. Not fixes, just the right words. At the right hour, when no one else is saying them. I'll see you next time.